Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tronage, and today we're gonna do a mod experiment with the HGLRC XJB 145 and these AXII antennas I got from the Quad box. Stay tuned. All right, so here's the deal. I just got finished, like literally 30 seconds ago, filming the quick tip that you've already seen posted, and if you didn't, check the card in the corner, about how to fix the no gyro problem by reflowing the solder. And I said, while I have this quad apart, let's do a mod experiment. What's a mod experiment? I just came up with the word just now, quite literally. We're gonna do a mod that's an experiment, hence, mod experiment. What I noticed by taking apart this quad repeatedly is a couple of things. One, I keep wasting a zip tie every time I zip tie this antenna to the top plate, because every time I open it, I have to cut that zip tie. The second thing I noticed is the design of this connector, this IPEX or U.fl or whatever you want to call this connector. It's got, I guess, a couple names. I'm guessing IPEX, and U.fl. Apparently all reference this connector. Don't know which one is right, but I'm just gonna call it IPEX for now. What happens is, when you put this top plate on, and you go to screw it down, it lifts up on that connector. And you may have not seen what just happened there, but it actually just half disconnected. And if I go a little bit more, it's 3/4 disconnected, and if I just give it a little wiggle, it is now disconnected. That's an issue, for me at least, because I don't want to be breaking this, and I don't want to be breaking this by having it without this on it. So my original thing was to do a pre-bend on it, so I was going to do one of these actions to it, so that it would be down on the board, and then when I put my top plate on, it would already have a bend to it, and maybe that would fix everything. But I wasn't happy with that. I said, there's got to be a better way. So then I was looking at this top plate and I said, you know, it's kind of interesting how they have this hole here. I said, well, maybe that's a specific sized hole. And what I found out is it is a specific sized hole. It's actually, if I pull one of these out that I purchased, it's exactly the size hole that fits, you know, a full size 5-inch sized quad's video transmitter connector. It can go right through there. It's the exact size. And you can put the little washers in here and you can screw this down, and now your little 3-inch quad has a standard SMA connector on it. So you can put any antenna you want on it. And if you want to change out your antennas, you want to switch to a left-hand polarized because you're being cool like that, or you want to go from a TBS Triumph to a AXII or whatever, you can now just swap them out because you have a threaded connection. Yes, this does add a little bit of weight because this weighs a little bit more than this does, and this is going to have another antenna on it, so you are adding a couple grams here. I mean, you know, it's not rocket science. I mean, if you're concerned about the weight, stick with this little guy and knock yourself out. I'm not so concerned about the weight because this thing has so much power that it's ridiculous. So I'm thinking it can handle a few extra grams without even twitching. So what I picked up this. It basically has a little right angle on this side. So I don't have a wire coming straight out the bottom and then bending it to go into the quad. So it's a right angle at this end, and this end has that IPEX connector. And it's a little bit longer of a cable. Here's my thoughts. What I'm gonna do when I put this all together, rather than connect this like this and have it just come straight out the back and out, right? Instead, what I'm gonna do, I'm going to plug it in to the video transmitter, have it come down across on top of the board, and then loop back and go to that hole in the back. The advantage of this is there's no stress now. I can lift and pull on this all day long, and it's not actually pulling on this IPEX connector. Also, because it's going to be running along like this, and my receiver is going to be sitting down on top of that, it's going to again add extra holding power to hold that IPEX connector down and put pressure on it. And because this is now going to be coming out of this top plate, it's going to look something like this when it's assembled. From here, now what I'm going to do is, I got these Lumineer AXIs in my quad box. These are adorable little antennas. I mean, this is like made for this. So I'm going to take this, and when it's all assembled, I take this little guy and I screw him on like this, and I'm done. And now instead of this dipole antenna, which gives me poor signal and has a tendency to pop off, I now have a much robust system. Does add a few grams, but that's okay, at least in my opinion. If you agree, feel free to follow. If you don't agree, then don't do this. Stay with your dipole. You ain't gonna hurt my feelings. But now I have this wonderful AXII antenna on here, and if I don't like the AXII, all I have to do is, boom, I take this off, and I can put a Triumph on here. Or I can put whatever I want to put on here. I can just swap out all kinds of antennas without taking anything apart or buying special versions. Yes, you can buy this AXII with the IPEX connector on the other end and blah, 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 blah. Yes, you can do that. But then again, you're locked into the whole purpose of me doing this was to make it simple to swap out antennas. So if you wanted to try something different, you can swap it out. And I figured I got these AXIs in my quad box, might as well use them. This seemed like a perfect quad to put them on, so that's how I'm installing them. So I'm going to put links in the description below. I picked these up at Amazon. They were like a couple bucks, no big deal. And that's really the mod, or my mod experiment. Now, does it work? I don't know. As you can see, it's really still a part. I'm going to put it together now and fly it and see if it works. And we'll see. So, let's build it. Let's fly it, and let's see the result of our mod experiment. All right, so here you have a kind of a little close-up of what's going on here. Basically, instead of having this antenna go on this way and coming out the back, I'm going to have the antenna wired go out the front instead, loop back around upon itself, and then poke up through the top plate. And here's our finished product. So you can see I was able to mount that SMA connector onto here, and I was still able to fit everything on the way it was. The only change I had to make was this SMA connector came too low, and the beeper LED assembly was bumping into it. So instead of it being in these little slots that it normally is in, instead I dropped it down to the bottom, and then I just put 2 zip ties basically pressure fit it into that bottom location. So they basically just wrap around the LED, and they are hooked into this little notch here on here to hold this LED assembly from moving. But other than that, it just took a lot of convincing that wire to go in. So the way it's threaded, it goes from the connector, it goes under the receiver, it then goes down behind the camera, then it comes back up from behind the camera along the side of the receiver, and then to the back is how I had to route it. That's the new look. Got my little AXII rocking on top. This is my mod experiment. We're going to see how this performs over this little guy on there, and hopefully we'll see a big improvement in our video signal because we have a much better antenna on there and circular polarized versus just a dipole. So hopefully we should have some good results with this. So we'll give it a shot and we'll see how it works out, and I'll let you guys know. Wow. All right, guys and gals, sisters, brothers, I did not think it was possible to enjoy flying this quad any more than I already do. And that was proven wrong this afternoon when I took this out to test out this mod experiment. It was like seeing HD TV for the first time. Now relax, relax. I know this is not HD or anything like that, but it just was so clear, and I could go so much further, and it didn't really matter orientation of quad and really what was between us. The picture was so much better. So as far as quality of the view, having a circular polarized antenna is where it's at. Seriously. But let's go through the specs real quick. So we got the little one that comes with it, this little dipole antenna. This is your lightest weight option. It weighs about 1/2 gram, and this is the whole assembly. It attaches directly to your video transmitter, and there it is. The problem with it is it can pop off easy, and the video is a little subpar in my opinion now, having seen what this can do. The advantages is it's very durable, and it only weighs 1/2 gram. Option 2, you have an AXII antenna with the SMA right angle connector. This whole assembly with the AXII antenna with the full length wire and the SMA connector and everything, that whole thing weighs about 12 grams. They do make a version of the AXII antenna that's like a stubby, where it's just the antenna and the connector like direct. So it's like all one unit, there's no wire in between. I'm guessing it's gonna weigh a little bit less. And then the other option is the Team Black Sheep Triumph antenna. This is the stubby version of this antenna. So this, with that whole assembly, weighs about 15 grams. So you got 15 grams with the assembly, AXII's 12 grams with the assembly, dipole 1/2 gram. So these are clearly heavier weight than this, but it performs equally. I noticed no difference, and I'm very familiar with the flight characteristics of this quad, and it performed identically. I did not notice in the least the additional 12 or 15 grams payload that the antennas brought. What I did notice is how great the video looked regardless of orientation of the quad in relationship to me, regardless of height, regardless of what was between me, whether it's trees or a light post or whatever the case is. So I highly recommend, if weight is not a concern and performance, I didn't notice any difference at all, so that shouldn't really be a concern, this should be something to definitely check out, because it just opens up so many doors. Not just as it looks good, but you can swap out antennas. If you want to swap out and put on a left-hand polarized antenna because everyone else around you is flying right-hand, you can do that in like 5 seconds. It just makes a whole lot of sense. Now, the only issue I ran into, and I know it's tough, if you notice, there's no Mobius here right now. Why does I take it off? Because it's off charging. But Tronage, I thought you said you wanted it so that you could charge it without having to take it off of the quad when you put it on there. Well, yes, that's correct. And that was the case until I changed my quad and added this SMA connector onto it, because you can see at the 30-degree angle that my Mobius is attached at, now that SMA connector is in the way of that USB port so that I can fit my wire into plugging it in. So I had to remove it from the quad so I could charge it. In order to fix that, all I'm going to do is I'm going to modify my mount to raise it up just a smidge. So then the USB cable would then fit on top of the SMA connector. Now, yes, that does mean to charge my Mobius, I'll have to remove my antenna. No big deal. But other than that, I'm loving this quad. I'm loving the fact that now I can see much better. I have much more trust in the video signal, and I'm just loving this dang quad, man. The hardest part about this mod was routing the wire that goes like kind of in a loop. Now, you may even have a different receiver in here if you have like a Crossfire Nano or a FreeSky receiver, you may even have more space than I had because the Spectrum receiver with the telemetry is a little bit larger of a receiver. Or you may even have your receiver mounted on top, so you have tons of room inside. Whatever your case is, that was the hardest part I encountered, was just routing the wire. But once I got it routed, everything was peachy keen. That's right, peachy keen. So as always, my name is Tronage. Fly strong. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, you really should subscribe. I'm always posting new content. If you'd like to help support the channel and get access to giveaways, raffles, and other exclusive benefits, consider joining the Tronage family on the Patreon page. Here's some videos that you might be interested in. This is the latest one that I posted, and this one I think you might just like. Go check them out.